and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is the final part in my Headless Horseman series, and in this video we're going to finish inking the picture and add the final details. If you want to follow along using traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list of all the examples of all the materials that you can use to create this picture. The app that I'm going to be using is SketchBook Pro for Windows, and we're going to go ahead and start working a little bit more on the horse here. And I'm just working on adding some of the shadows on the legs for the muscles and the bone structure. And I'm using one of the fine tip watercolor brushes in SketchBook Pro, and I'm going to be using sort of a dark bluish color. And I just want to go ahead and kind of show the structure of the horse's muscles on his leg and on his neck, and just kind of show that a little bit with the blue color and smudge it in a little bit. We don't have to get real detailed because this is a pen and ink drawing, and so we just kind of want to add some suggestion of the details. And I'm adding a little bit of blue onto the cloak. That just shows a little bit of the highlights of the wrinkles there, and you can do that traditionally by using gouache or just using kind of a dry brush technique with your watercolors. And then I'm adding some lines to the path and just making it look real sketchy, and I'm kind of blurring them out a little bit at the bottom here. And if you want to do that traditionally, just add water to your mixture, and I'm just kind of giving a little bit of indication of shadows under the horse and sort of a rough path there. And then on the edges, I want to make those a little bit darker. So I'm still using the dark blue color, but I'm adding thicker lines here. I'm leaving a little bit of pockets of dark and light there, just to give the indication of kind of dirt, clods, and rocks and things like that. But we don't want a real big detailed look here. We're just trying to get an indication of a rough forest floor here. And I'm smudging it out a little bit there just to give it the watercolor look in SketchBook Pro here. And so then I want to work a little bit more on the details on the rider's foot there. Just kind of add the ink there around the edges. And just trying to get it kind of more detailed right there. Just the final little details on the horse and the rider here. And then I want to work on the old tree in the background. And I'm using the reference program Pure Ref, which floats above your program on your Windows. And so it's also free. You can get it free, and it's a really nice program, and I've talked about it in the previous parts of this video, so go ahead and check it out. And so here I just want to add a little bit more of some dark to this old spooky tree that's by the rider here. And you can use a dark gray watercolor right here and just kind of go back over it again. I just want to make it look a little bit darker here, and you can let the light underneath show through a little bit. We just want to kind of give this a bark-like texture. And so I'm just kind of working on the old branches and make sure that they're twisted and gnarled looking, and we want to give it a sort of a sinister look or an eerie look. We want this to be a spooky looking old tree here, and go ahead and go over the branches again, make them a little bit darker. Now the ones in the back we want to leave light, because that will give the sense of depth there. So we want the one closer to the foreground to be darker, and then the trees in the back to be a lot lighter, and that gives you your aerial perspective and makes it look like things are more three-dimensional in your painting. And so I'm just kind of working on the branches, just making sure that they look real spooky and bent and twisted. And I'm going back over it a little bit just to kind of add a little bit of a highlight of blue there. And you can add a little bit of gouache maybe if you want to on your tree if you're following along traditionally to get this look, or you might be able to do it with a dry brush color with your watercolor. And then I'm adding some twiggy bushes at the bottom there just to give the eye stoppers along the edge of the picture. And what an eye stopper is it's an element that keeps the viewer's eye on your painting. You want good eye flow around on your painting, and that just keeps it looking interesting and keeps people's eyes on your painting. And I'm also going to add one in the corner here, on the right hand side in a minute, and that will also help with keeping the viewer's eye on your painting. And I'm smudging it out just a little bit on the ground, and in the background I'm smudging that one bush out because I want it to look like it's in the mist. And then here I'm adding the other twiggy bush right there. And again, that just helps keep the viewer's eye interested and makes a good eye flow and a good composition for your painting. And then here I want to add a glow around the pumpkin, and so I'm using a kind of a glazing brush. It's a watery ink brush here that's in their Inktober collection. And I'm doing this on a separate layer because I don't want to mess up the drawing below it. So if you're doing this traditionally, you would use a dry brush technique, a very little water in it. And then I'm also doing this around the rider using kind of a really light blue mist look. And again, it's on a separate layer. And I just want to give kind of an eerie glow to the rider here. And then I'm darkening the corners on the painting, the rest of it, to make the rider sort of stand out. And I'm using kind of a dark blue color, and you can go back and do this traditionally with another watercolor glaze, and you'd have to make sure that you're using waterproof ink for this. But it can be done. Just go ahead and do that. And anyway, that gives it the eerie glow that you get with the rider and the pumpkin. And it just kind of makes it look really spooky and ghostly when you do this. So then you want to go ahead and add a little bit more detail to the tree. And so that's what I did. And this time I used an inking pen. It says Busted Fountain Pen, and you can probably use a Micron Pigma pen for this, and just go ahead and add the final details to the old tree. So we want to make it look real rough and like there's real old bark on it, and so you wouldn't cover up all the dark gray underneath. You would just kind of make it look sketchy. Now this is going to come down to your style of painting. If you want to do cross-hatching lines or a different style, you can for inking, but I like to give it kind of a sketchy look here. And I'm also doing this to the ground, just making indications of dirt clods, rocks, but not getting real detailed. And I just kind of smudged it out a little bit here, and you can do this traditionally. You can either run some watercolor over the top of it, or you can use an ink that's not waterproof. And so I'm about through, so I went ahead and signed it. And then, of course, I always look at it again and just see if there's a few things that I might want to change or add to. And I added a little bit more, but I was pretty pleased with this one. And so I went ahead and just called it done and exported it out as a JPEG. And you can do that in SketchBook Pro. You can save it as any different format there that you want. And so I went ahead and did that. And then I wanted to show you the last piece that I did for Inktober. And this is a little girl in a witch costume. And I used the Oh Hoo Hoo alcohol markers. And I did a review of this on my Jimdo blog. And so if you want to see what these markers are like, just check out the Jimdo blog. And I have a link in the description down below. So this is the end of my Headless Horseman series, and stay tuned for a brand new series coming soon. If you have any questions, just leave them down below in the comments. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support, and I will catch you later.